'Tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today is the day that I talk about my favorite games of 2025. So this year was a bit of a weird year for me and for gaming. Not as huge of a year. There were a lot of standouts, but the bottom kind of fell out for me on a lot of them. You'll see that as the list goes on, mostly because there were a decent amount of games that I didn't get to play. Looks like other years, if you see any games rolling before you now, these are the games I didn't get to. You see, it's a smattering of Nintendo games. So there's a whole section of gaming that I just didn't get to because I do not have a Switch 2 yet. Hopefully in a year's time, we'll be having a different conversation about that. But that's just the situation we find ourselves in. That being said, there are still plenty of great games. We still have a top 10 list this year like normal, and a couple honorable mentions, not as many as we probably would have if we had played these games. But these, of course, will be 10 to 1, like they always are. So without further ado, let's just get into the good stuff, the stuff you're ready to see. Let's kick us off here at number 10. So years ago, I wanted Sega to do this idea. And a couple years previous now, there was an announcement that Sega would be doing exactly what I asked them to be doing, which is reviving old franchises, breathing new life into them, and seeing what magic could happen. And Shinobi Art of Vengeance is the first chapter in that idea. And what a wonderful way to kick off our list, and what a wonderful way to kick off this initiative. Shinobi is a franchise that I've always heard about, not one that I've really digged much into, but if other games are as full of life and full of action as this one, then it may be a franchise that I have to dig back into more, because the action in this game is so much fun. It's so clean. It's such an easy game to kind of get lost in, while also being structured in a way that you feel accomplished at every turn. Each level is designed in its own way. It kind of plays how you think a Metroidvania was, but there's no really big map. It's wholly level-based, and it's an action platformer in that way. There's a decent amount of exploring to find your collectibles and find little trinkets and more objectives in the level itself. So there's a lot to do here for fans of action platforming. For me, these types of games have never really been my bag, but it's here for a reason. This one really sold me over. Art style, music-wise, presentation alone, this game is worth the point of entry. And like I said, if Sega can keep up this momentum going into other franchises that I do have a history with, and I do have a love for, then I cannot wait to see what they're going to do, especially because they completely sold me over on a franchise that I never really knew much about before. When it was announced that Metal Gear Solid was getting a remake, I kind of had this envisioning of what that would look like. Something more akin to how Metal Gear Solid 5 looks and plays. Maybe it's a little bit more open, maybe we get rid of the levels. That's not what we got. Metal Gear Solid Delta is almost explicitly a 1-to-1 remake. Control-wise, it plays a heck of a lot better than Metal Gear Solid 3 did. That is one of the weirdest playing games to go back to. I understand it came out in the 2000s and controls haven't really been locked down too much yet, but going back and trying to play Metal Gear Solid 3 multiple times, I struggled to get past the opening section. This time, though, I easily blitzed past it, and what a weird and wacky world there is to explore beyond that opening section. Honestly, I kind of forget how normal this game starts compared to other Metal Gear games. It's very straightforward infiltration mission, and then all of a sudden, the weird and wackiness starts to show up, and you're like, oh yeah, Hideo Kojima made this game, didn't he? Well, he didn't make this game specifically, he made the base game, but this one plays loving homage to, painstakingly recreates Metal Gear Solid 3 into Metal Gear Solid Delta, in ways that I didn't think they would keep up with. I thought that they would change some things, like I said. the world is still designed in sections. Like, this is not a completely open world the way that I kind of thought they were going to change it up to be. That's not the case. If you've played the original, you'll know the map layout, you'll know where things are, you'll know where to go, and that stays consistent. Gameplay-wise, you can play it like the original, or you can play with the updated controls, which, if you haven't played the original, I highly recommend, because like I said, the old controls are janky, is the best way to put it. But if you have not played what is considered one of the greatest games of all time, this is a wonderful way to do it, and another wonderful addition here on this list. So, growing up as a Pokemon fan, there was this other franchise which seems to always be in its shadow, and it always was compared to, and it always was there in the background, but never really got my full attention. And up until I put the disc in for this game, I had next to no idea what a Digimon even really was, how the game would play, how anything. Is this game connected to old games? Is there a massive lore dump that's going to have to happen? Am I going to be lost? I had no idea. All I knew going in was that people were saying that this is arguably the better, maybe best monster collecting game of the year. I said, okay, I don't have a Switch 2 yet, and I don't really want to force ZA to be playing on the original Switch if I can avoid it. So let's see what happens with a Digimon game. And what I was blessed with was a wonderful surprise. A very fun, turn-based RPG monster collecting game. Very familiar territory for someone like me, but with hundreds of new and weird and like wacky monsters, which I had no relationship to. I had no idea who they were, what they were doing, what they evolved into, what they came from, what their types are, what that types even mean. None of it made any sense to me. Well, that's not true. It all made sense to me in a way of, like, someone who had played similar games before. But it was all, like, new. And the sense of newness and discovery was a wonderful feeling, which I haven't been able to feel in a Pokemon game. That's not those games' fault in any way. But just being able to experience so many new creatures and fall in love with a bunch of weirdos, it was simply fun to me. And I don't know if this game is going to spiral me into becoming a massive Digimon fan. It probably won't. You know, I'll check into these games every now and again because, unfortunately, they haven't had the best track record. But in this year, Digimon had a great game, and I'm happily recommending it to you all. The other big remake this year for me was Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. This has been hailed as one of the greatest tactics games to ever exist, one of the best Final Fantasies to ever exist. And I had such a craving for a tactics game earlier this year, including wanting to play this one. I looked for a way to play it. Do I try to get a PS1 version and break out the old console, or I don't have a PSP, so that was off the table. And then lo and behold, Summer Games Fest rolls along and this announcement shows up, and I was like, well, I can wait a little bit longer, and I did, and I was heavily rewarded for my time with a story that, while if it came out today, I don't know if this would be called one of the best of all time. I still really enjoyed the story and the characters and what they're creating here. The tactics itself give a layer of depth which I can't even really begin to fathom. People love this game for a reason. And the amount of replayability that this game offers seemingly feels infinite, with the amount of team builds you can have, the amount of overpowered characters you can create, and heck, even this one gives quality of life improvements that, the PS1 just couldn't offer. Plus, if you love a certain guy from Midgar, he's easier to get in this game, from what I've heard, than in the original game. So that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, of course, to see him again, and also to fall in love with plenty of new characters, some that are story related and some that I kind of created a headcanon for, because it's my little teammates that I built, and I put them into certain classes and let them see how they fit in the different roles. And the experimentation, if you like experimenting in RPGs, this is the game for you. It always has been, and that's what it's been sold as for a long time, and I can healthily say that to be the case. Now, this is still a PlayStation 1 game, much like Metal Gear Solid Delta is still a PS2 game, so don't go into it with the full anticipation of a full modern game. Like, this is a new coat of paint on a very strong foundation and not a wholly new thing. Maybe based on if this game was selling well enough and the response it got, I mean, it won a Game Award, that maybe we'll see another one of these games in the future that's wholly new and wholly original, and we can see what'll happen in a new Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean, this one has a subtitle now, so maybe a different one is on the horizon, who knows. But this one is great. I can say that without a doubt, and I'm happy to finally have checked it off the backlog bucket list. So, Split Fiction came out early this year, and I feel like a lot of people kind of just forgot it happened. It Takes Two was such a revelation in gaming, and while that studio had made other games before, It Takes Two was the first one to really shine a spotlight on exactly what these types of games are and can be and how much fun they are. And Split Fiction doesn't push the envelope much further, but it is just a smidge better, perhaps. It's more creative in some of its level choices. There's a lot of weirdness and quirkiness and fun to be had. And if you get a friend with you, which, I mean, you have to, these games are required 2-player, you get someone you care about, you either, online or right next to you, you are in for such a fun time. This was an easy playthrough one weekend, and it was just, I didn't want to do anything else while playing it. Like, this was just what me and one of my best friends did. We just played and played and played, and all of a sudden it was coming to a close, and I can't speak for them, but I didn't want it to end. I didn't want the fun to be over, and that's the mark of something great, is when you come to an end of something and you just want more of it. And then we went through and we got all the achievements for it just before we said goodbye, and it was a wonderful experience and one that I will cherish. And now I can happily say I can't wait for whatever this game studio has, and I'm sure it'll be weird and fun and an exciting multiplayer adventure once again. But for now, Split Fiction is one of my favorites of the year. If we're talking forgotten about, Fantasy Life is, I don't even know what the analogy is here, a complete relic of a bygone era, it seems. This game made no impact when it came out, and unfortunately that's partially because the release here in America was very muted. A studio Level 5, which I have talked about on this channel before, is slowly coming out with more and more stuff again after a hiatus. And Fantasy Life was one of the best games they ever made. It came out on the 3DS, and I've talked about even that before. So finally getting a sequel to that, on which I played the PS5, so it's a massive upgrade for me, was unthinkable to finally be playing a sequel to a game that I really loved way back then. And it is a serious improvement on every aspect that game had to offer. Biggest thing was it felt more at home on a console, right? This world is big, and it needs the room to breathe so you can explore, and the world is so realized in this game. There's also so many weird little activities you do on top of, right, Fantasy Life. You get to be, the original I think it's 12, and this one it bumps it up a couple more. The amount of jobs you can do. So there's like the combat classes like Wizard and Paladin, and Archer, and then there's the specialty classes where you can build stuff like Carpenter or Blacksmith, and then there's the material classes like Fisherman or woodcutter, and stuff like that, right? It's kind of sold on a premise like every job is its own little RPG, and that's true, but once you kind of see it kind of unveils its magic trick to you at some point. You're like, oh, I get it. Like, these jobs are basically the same game, and these jobs are basically all the same game. And they all kind of feed off of each other, yeah, but you basically just have to be switching between jobs all the time. It's really tough to pick a job, play through its entire storyline, and then go from there. Especially in this one, it definitely pushes a lot more of switching up the job types you're using, because it's a lot easier to switch jobs in this one than it was in the original as well. There's also a little town builder in this game. There's a whole other, there's like two worlds. There's an overworld and an underworld, and then there's a dungeon. There's a lot to explore, and then there's like dungeon crawler like on top of that too. Like, there's a whole thing, right? There's a lot to do in this game, a lot to see in this game, and you could easily spend hundreds of hours maxing out every class and seeing everything this game has to offer. And while I put dozens of hours into this game, I had an absolute blast. And if this game looks interesting to you at all, please give it a try. Level 5 is one of those studios that I love, and anyone that plays their games seems to love, but I constantly feel like they just don't get the recognition that they deserve. And this one by far is one of the best of the year, and I am championing it so hard because it is that good, and I am pleading, just give it a try. So this may be a little surprising to some to see it. I mean, I say down this low, number 4 of the year is nothing to scoff at. Expedition 33 was one Game of the Year at the Game Awards, which most people I feel like expected to happen, is a wonderful turn-based RPG with some incredibly creative new ideas when it comes to its combat that I won't totally spoil. I think it's more interesting to experience it for yourself. The world and the music and the characters, of course, have been championed to high heaven, and for good reason. The world that is crafted here is flowing with imagination, and you don't always get to feel the love poured into a game like you do with Expedition 33. Where it falters for me and why it's not number 1, I guess I'll get into a tiny bit. The story for me worked until it didn't. Once it showed its hand, I was like, okay, stories like this aren't my favorite. It's a very big personal thing. I've talked about it before with my friends. And so when it came to that, it did take me out a little bit once I saw where the game was going. I still think it's a wonderful experience, and I will never talk bad about, right, if the story hit you in a way it didn't hit me, or you love these characters more than I do. Stuff like that, right? I see what people are seeing. It just wasn't fully for me, right? I came out of it, I went into it with these incredibly lofty expectations. People were already championing it as Game of the Year back when I played it in the early parts of the summer, and I was like, this is good. This is very good. The whole time, like, this is very good. But there are just weird little things about it, too, like, when you're exploring and there's no mini-map, and I'm like, you get lost all the time, and maybe some people enjoy that, and maybe some people don't, or there's weird little platforming sections which feel incredibly janky on purpose, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like it fits here at all. Stuff like that, where, yeah, it's more of this game, but by the time the credits were coming, I was ready for it to be done. And that's the best way I could say it. I enjoyed my time here thoroughly. When I was having fun, I was having fun, and when I was being emotional, it was really hitting me. But when it was over, I was ready for it to be over. And that cannot be said about the games above it for me. So I'm happily putting it at number 4. I'm sure for many people it's at number 1. And like I said, I will never argue with you that it shouldn't be number 1 for you. Wonderful game. I feel like everybody should play it. Everyone should give it a try. And I'm sure a lot of people will love it more than even I did. So this is a little strange. Putting this above Expedition 33 may shock a lot of people, even more than having Expedition 33 be lower. 2 Point Museum. This is my very first 2 Point game that I've played. I understand there's 2 Point Campus and 2 Point Hospital before this. The museum one was the first one, and I'm like, yeah, that one seems like something I would really like. And I was in such a mood, and this happens to me from time to time. I get in the mood to play certain genres. I mean, I was talking about that with tactical games earlier in this video. I was in such a mood to play a management sim, and every now and again I get such a hankering to play one of those types of games. And then 2 Point Museum comes out, and it gets good reviews, and people are liking it, and they say it's fun, and it's the best 2 Point game. And I got it, and let me tell you, every time I sat down to play this game, hours would go by in the snap of a finger, and I'd be like, what just happened to me? I haven't had a game, any other game, this year that I got home, I like rushed home and sat down and just played. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything else tonight. I'm just playing this. It's all I wanted to do. And it was just constant love of these types of games, and it's scratching it for me. And maybe if I played it at a different time, maybe if there's 2 management sims that came out, I mean, there were, but if I played 2 management sims this year and one scratched the itch before this one came out, it could have very easily been lower on the list or something. Anyways, in my experience for the year, 2 Point Museum was one of the most fun I've had just playing a video game. And it just worked for me. And I understand if you don't like management sims, then just cruise on past this one. But for me, I can wholly recommend these, and I'm looking into going back and trying out some of the other ones maybe, or maybe just biding my time until they release another one of these games, or maybe I'll play the expansions or something. I'll just waiting for that itch to be scratched again, because it was like a perfect remedy to whatever was bothering. I cannot really even put into words, right? It just worked. Whatever I was feeling, it just worked, this game, and I was so stoked the entire time. So, fullest of recommendations on this one. If you like management sims at all, if this looks fun or interesting and wacky, and maybe you have never played a management sim, this is a wonderful one to try, and I fully loved it. So the other really big contender for Game of the Year at the Game Awards this year, Hollow Knight Silksong, came after a long, long wait from the first game. And I, like many people, came home that day and just started exploring a world which nobody knew really anything about, right? We didn't know the release date to this game till like a week before it came out, and that was such a genius move. And to have every person on the planet be able to play it at the same time, it was a gaming experience that I'll cherish forever, I think, right? Because so many games get like spoiled, and even brand new games you can look up walkthroughs and tricks and tips and whatever else you want to find out about a game. This one, that didn't happen, right? You started Silksong day one, there was no guide to tell you where to go and what to do and who to fight, and who is easy and who is tough, and a million other things. This game was full exploration by the player, and it was a wonderful experience. I know that anybody can just do that, right? You don't have to look anything up. There's always this like thought in the back of your head, even when you get an achievement or something, it feels like, 75% of players already have this achievement, right? It kind of shows you how people have been here before. This is trotted territory. But like day one of Silksong, you got an achievement and it was like 0.0% of players have this. It's like, I just did something that like no one's done before. And that may not be wholly true, but that's what it felt like. Like, this is a brand new thing. The game itself, after such a long wait, is visually a masterpiece. Musically, it's not as strong as the first game, and the big elephant in the room is the difficulty. While I can commend Team Cherry for what they wanted to do and what they were able to accomplish, and clearly see what they were going for with a lot of aspects and the difficulty. This game is mind-numbingly hard at times. This may be the hardest game I have ever beaten. There are parts in this game where it is wholly on you, and I don't like the term, but since Hornet herself has said it before, to just get good. There's no way about it. There's no cheesing it. There's no tricks. There's no wall hacks. There's no easy method. It's just, here's your boss. In the run back, figure it out. And there were 2 times, and I could spoil it too, and maybe I'll talk about it in a video later. 2 different bosses where they just brought me to this point, which I haven't felt in a long time, to where I felt like I knew every move the boss was going to make. I knew it. Before they made it, I could feel it. And I entered this sort of flow state of like, I'm better than you now. I got good. I can feel it in my bones that I'm gonna beat you soon. And like, that feeling is incredible. There are parts though that this game kind of seems like it just hates you. There's an area, and I'll say it's called Biowater, and this area is just designed to make you upset. And it clearly is, and it works in that, but after a game of so many difficult challenges, this sort of late game area, it feels like it's just a middle finger at times. And it's like, why is this area designed in such a way? It's just painful to experience. So while Silksong has some of the highest highs, and I mean higher highs than number 1 has, the lows that Silksong unfortunately suffers does taper it down back to number 2 for me. But 7-year-long wait, and to experience some of the emotions I've never felt playing a game before, and I can't thank Team Cherry enough for those. For the next one, and it seems crazy, and I feel bad even saying, alright, for the next game now, but I'm sure there will be a next game considering how popular this one was. Maybe let's not make the game so ridiculously hard that people feel bad about giving it up. Maybe let's not make it so that every enemy can hit you for 2 points of damage, where in the last game, that was a very rare phenomenon. Maybe let's not make it so that platforming feels like such a horrendous task at times. Maybe let's design run backs so that they make sense all the time and not just some of the time. Just something to think about. And before we get into our top game of the year, we will be talking about a couple honorable mentions. Just 2 this year, but I do of course want to mention them. Disc County is an adorable little game, akin to a Stardew-like, but instead of having a farm, you have a little store. The story is charming, the characters are charming. It's a very charming little experience, right? It won't take you more than, 15 hours to 100% this whole thing. I had a lot of fun with my time, though, and I did want to mention it here. And then a big game, Sid Meier's Civilization 7. I just didn't fully sink my teeth into it as I feel like I should have. Maybe that's on me. Maybe there are issues with it, especially at launch when I was playing it, that kind of put it back here rather than on the list proper. There are very good things about it, and I do think if given the proper time and hours that maybe not as many as I put into Civ 5, but, maybe I put some more work into it, Civ 7 will crawl up for me. So, without further ado, you may have seen this coming. If you know me, you probably did. Number 1. So what makes a game of the year? Does a game of the year have to reinvent the wheel? Does it have to bring something to the table you've never seen before? Does it have to be a long-awaited something or other that's wholly new and wholly realized? Or can it just be an improvement on something that you've loved before? Ghost of Yotei challenged me with this question because as I was playing it and as I was having more fun with it than games that I were told were supposed to be better than it. Some games that are on this list, in fact, games that won awards that Ghost of Yotei didn't, and I was playing and I couldn't care less what the voices around me or online or had anything to say, because I was having pure gaming bliss. Ghost of Yotei is a game seemingly tailored for me. A world design that I loved. Open world games I love fully. I love little side quests. I love little knickknacks to find. I love stuff like that. Sometimes I even love checkboxes and watchtowers to go climb. And Ghost of Yotei gives the same wonderful world design concepts that Ghost of Tsushima had, right? And the main character is such an interesting story and why she's doing what she's doing and why we need to go hunt down different things, and it just wholly worked. I didn't want to put it down, right? I loved doing every little weird side quest, and I loved doing every, bamboo strike or go chase a fox around, and sometimes even chase a wolf around this time, and doing the duels with other swordsmen and seeing the characters and show up here and there and everywhere and interact with them, and the world felt alive. And the photo mode, for crying out loud, is so much fun to just play around with because it's so beautiful, this world, and I just loved it. And it brought me back to that time in 2020, which is just, I like to forget about, but Ghost of Tsushima was such a shining light in such a dark year, and this is just a marginal improvement, but a marginal improvement on one of my favorite games of all time is an incredible feat of gaming history, and I feel like people do not give this game the respect that it deserves, and I am going to champion it for as long as I can, and to anyone that will listen, and I wholly feel like Ghost of Yotei is the best game to come out in 2025. I don't care that other games brought new mechanics and new ideas, and Ghost of Tsushima is just more of the same. When the same thing is one of the greatest things to ever exist, more of the same is exactly what I want. And it's not even wholly more of the same, right? There's new ideas, there's obviously new characters, and there's wonderful callbacks to the game before it, but I mean, just the way you interact with the world and the mechanics of the fights are different. Instead of having different stances, you get completely different weapons, and the way you use the weapons to interact with people, and the way that your character is perceived in the world and changes throughout the story, it's wonderful. And what Sucker Punch has made here is without a doubt one of my favorite games to ever exist, and I wish I could erase my brain and play it again for the first time. I'm out of words at this point to talk about why I love it on a base level without fully getting into the spoilers and the weeds of it all. But if you even liked Ghost of Tsushima, or maybe you haven't played either, which I'm incredibly jealous that you get to play them for the first time, play them. Just give them a try. And I hope you'll feel the same love for these games that I have. I truly do. So, with that, those are my top 10 games of 2025. What games were your favorites? Were they not in this video at all? Please let me know down below. Of course, like I said, the ones at the beginning happens, unfortunately. Next year seems like it's going to be a crazy full year of games, and I cannot wait for that as well. So, yeah. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.